Welcome to another episode of King's World. Okay, so for our first episode last week, we answered some questions. First episode of 2020. We answered some questions from you guys. Now this time, there's really nothing going on right now in the bodybuilding world. It's kind of dead. We got the Arnold Classic that's coming up. We got the preview. We did that already too. So, things are kind of a little bit dead because of the winter time until things start to heat up around March, and then we go straight into all the good stuff. So I thought this week we could have a little bit of fun. I've kind of touched on this a little bit before in the past about some of the crazy stories and things that I've done in the past that you guys absolutely love. So I'm going to dive into that one more time. So what are we going to talk about this week? Some more King Kamali trials and tribulations and crazy stories from my IFBB days. Let's go. Okay, story number one. So I was guest posing at the Emerald Cup. Where's the Emerald Cup? That's in Seattle, Washington. Now, you guys have to understand, the Emerald Cup is one of, if not the biggest amateur NPC shows in the country. Well-run show, huge, monstrous. I mean, just an amazing amount of competitors. Great, great show. I happen to also be friends with a lot of guys from Seattle throughout my career. I had met a lot of crazy guys and a lot of great guys. And these guys I used to call the young millionaires. I think I've touched on this before. So one night we happened to finish my guest posing appearance. It was myself and a couple other professionals. And these guys decided to take us out. So when they took us out, started out pretty normal. We went to a restaurant, really nice, fine, ate, had some ice cream afterwards. And then I got dropped off. But then I was told to go to the local mall at a certain address at a certain time and wait. And somebody came and picked me up. Not going to say his name because he likes his privacy. And from there, we went to this mall. And from this point on, kids, I'm just going to explain to you little by little, detail by detail, but not get into too much of what that night had in store. So, a blacked out bus came and picked us up. Okay. To get on the bus, we needed a password to get on the bus. We get on this bus, and I start to notice that everybody is dressed like a pimp, and all the girls are dressed like hoes. So I looked at my buddy. I'm like, this looks pretty interesting. He goes, don't worry. He goes, I got you. You're never going to forget this night. He ended up taking me up this mountain. And when we got to the top of the mountain, we got to this private gate where bodyguards were standing there. We had to pass through these bodyguards with secret passwords to get to another gate where more bodyguards were there. And then we had to get past through that gate. And we finally got to this mansion on top of this mountain. Folks, I have to say to you, it was one of the craziest, most insane nights that I've ever encountered in my life. It was one of the most hardcore, I would say a combination of bachelor party / Vegas / any insane lunatic out of control party you ever been to in your life, all mixed into one, and add lots of money on top of it because this guy, whoever the guy was who owned this house, who was throwing this party, was incredibly rich. We went to this house, every room was a specific interest in every sexual desire you can possibly imagine. And then outside there was a 3-meter diving board where there was an actual pimp and hoe diving party, diving competition. So you had to get on top of this 3-meter board and dive into this pool. And whoever did the craziest dive would win a stack of cash. It was crazy. And how did the night end? I mean, of course, I'm skipping a whole bunch of stuff, as you guys can possibly imagine. How did the night end? A brawl happened, and somebody got thrown over the fence in the backyard down the mountain. When I say down the mountain, I mean this guy probably rolled about 30 to 40 seconds down the freaking mountain. That was my Seattle pimp and hoe party crazy experience. Crazy. Crazy story number two, my guest posing in Okinawa, Japan. Now, this story is not necessarily like the first one, like crazy like that, but to me, it was a crazy experience because, first of all, when you arrive in Japan and you go to the airport is unbelievably technologically advanced. It's just insane. They're so far ahead of the world when it comes to technology. But when you go into the bathrooms, there's only a hole in the ground, and there are no dividers. So basically, if you have to take a dump, you got to take a dump in front of everybody in the bathroom. That's it. There's a hole in the ground where you got to squat over and do your business. No. That's not happening. I was going to hold it in. Now, I was staying on a United States military base, so I said, F it. I'm going to wait until I get to the base. Now, as we're going with the car to the base, I started to notice these houses on these hills. And I think I've touched on this before, but for you newbies watching this, again, this was all a new experience for me. So I'm watching these houses, and all these houses on these hills have themes. So I turned around to the driver. I'm like, what the hell is this? And he said, well, those are sex houses. And basically in Japan, it's kind of accepted. I'm not sure if it's still like that now, because this was a couple years ago. But it was it's accepted that after a guy finishes a hard day's work, he goes and visits his mistress first. After he sees his mistress, then he goes home to wifey. And every one of these houses has these themes, like a tropical theme or a winter theme. And it was just the strangest things to look as we're trying to go through these, the streets of Japan and looking up at these hills and seeing all these sex houses. Just out of control. Third thing about Japan, my God, the heat. I have never in my life felt that humid heat. I mean, Dubai was awful. Dubai in the summertime, I'm telling you, it was like you walk outside, it was like a steam punch hitting you in your face. Imagine that, but about 10% worse in Japan. The heat index was off the charts, the humidity off the charts. And I remember there were these red flags that would go up that would mean people stay inside, do not come outside because it is a danger to your health. The heat in Japan. I will never, ever forget the heat in Japan. That, my friends, I think that was it. And, one more thing about Japan. I got my notes right here. That's why sometimes I got to look down my notes. One more thing about Japan is the superstition. So, as we were taking, I finished my guest posing and I had a couple days in Japan. So I was with the promoter and we were going around. He was showing me Japan. And I noticed that there was these couple of buildings that were completely deserted. I mean, it looks like they were halfway built and then just stopped building them. And they were covered with like vines and birds and animals were living in them. So I mean, like really big apartment buildings or complexes. And then I asked him, like, what's this deal with that? What's the story with this? And the guy goes, well, in Japan, if the people believe that the building is cursed, no one will get. No, that's how superstitious they are. So apparently one of the construction workers at one of these buildings got pissed off and started a rumor that said the building was cursed. And all those umpteen millions and millions of dollars that they put into this building, they had to stop construction because not one person wanted to move in because they thought the building was cursed. Superstitious. Japan, crazy. Crazy story number 3, Toronto, Canada, the Toronto Pro. I was there just supporting my friends, supporting my peers. I believe Bob Ciccarello was competing that year. I was there to support. And afterwards, of course, we all went out to party. Canada, Toronto, great town to have fun, have a good time. And I'm not going to mention names, but a very, very good friend of mine, a top professional, one of the best, a Hall of Famer, he was with a couple of young ladies, throughout the night. And I was crossing the street where the club was, and I was trying to get across to get a cab. And I noticed that this particular person was extremely, let's just say, in a happy mood, drunk, a little buzzed, whatever the hell you want to call it. And I went over and I started to talk to him and then started to put the story together, 2 and 2. Long story short, these 2 ladies that he was with had stolen his wallet. And this person could not find his wallet. So I started to panic and I'm looking around trying to figure out what's going on. And these 2 girls were in a car and they were at a red light. I jumped in front of their car and I started screaming at them, give me his wallet and I'm not going to move. They started screaming profanities at me and then until I jumped in the car and I grabbed the windshield wipers. And as I was pulling the windshield wipers, one of the girls grabbed the wallet, threw it out the window, and she hit the gas. I barely rolled off, and she hit two people. I mean, this was a legitimate hit and run, and hit two people trying to get away as fast as they could. And at the end of all of that, guess what? This person whose wallet I saved got mad at me. He was mad at me because he still thought he was going to get some from these two skanks. You got to love this sport. You got to love these guys. You got to love it. Canada, Toronto. This is my Toronto story. I'm leaving a whole bunch of stuff out, but that's basically what happened. Canada. My final crazy story. It was about 5.5, 6 years ago. I was in Iran. I was doing my seminars, and I went to the city of Gorgon. And they had the Asian World Arm Wrestling Championships there when I went. So I went there, and it was great, and the fans went crazy. I got on stage. I got to raise the winner's hand. I mean, it was awesome time. But I made one critical mistake that weekend. See, when you travel to these countries that you haven't been to, you know, Iran, Taiwan, anywhere across the world, okay, Japan, Moscow, it doesn't matter. You have to be careful because you're used to your own specific diet, your own specific germs, your own bacteria, whatever you want to call it. So when you travel, you have to make sure you drink, especially your fluids. Everything has to be washed when you eat it, and everything has to be bottled. I made the mistake of drinking a glass of Diet Coke with ice. I wasn't thinking, and I just drank it. Folks, I had a seminar, and while I'm doing my seminar, I am feeling it, everything starting to come up, and my head is starting to spin. I would walk to the bathroom, excuse myself in the middle of the seminar, walk to the bathroom, yak, like The Exorcist. Blah. I mean, you can't imagine how much puke was coming out. Wipe myself, come back, continue with the seminar, go back to the bathroom. And every time I came back, you have to understand, I'm starting to get more white, more pale, more white, and more sweaty. And everyone's just looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? I managed, I finished, I did what I had to do, went to the airport, said, take me home, puked at the airport too, on the airplane. Now, you thinking to yourself, can't get any worse. You know, you're on a plane, you're sick, you wanted this. All y'all wanted to do was go back and just take a couple of days off and rest. Well, I realized that the airplane that we're in is going around Tehran in circles for about 35 to 40 minutes. So finally, as sick as I am, I turned around and I asked the stewardess, why aren't we landing? Why are we going around in circles? And she wouldn't answer my question. So finally, I told the guy who was with me, he was my chaperone, my guy, I said, you got to find out what's going on. Apparently, ladies and gentlemen, the landing gear was not coming down. They could not bring the landing gear down. The plane was broken. Can you just imagine being sick, pukey, sweating, having that awful feeling, and you're about to die because the landing gear is not coming down. Thank God, finally the landing gear came down. We landed. I puked as we landed. I puked when I got picked up, went straight to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, I've said this story before, I'm in the room and they come in there. The doctor came in there. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. He's smoking a cigarette. He walked in the room and he goes, hey, champ, what's wrong with you? And at that moment, I just said, just kill me. Just kill me now because it can't get any worse than this. Anyway, long story short, he gave me this thing called the serum. I passed out, woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I felt about 60 to 70% better, recovered, got my shit going. I lived. All right, so 4 stories. That's it for this week. Listen, guys, I'm trying my hardest to get Chad Nichols to come for this interview. He's busy. He was busy all weekend long. They had an ice storm, lights out, major problems. Plus, his team, Kansas City, I know he went to see the Chiefs. They made it to the Super Bowl. I know he was really busy, but I'm going to get him this week one way or another. We're going to do this great interview. And as always, love you guys. Stay healthy and peace, bitches.